Well, Mr. President, I would ask, is it true the parliamentary situation as it exists right now is that we will be voting on cloture on both what is known as Don't Ask, Don't Tell and the DREAM Act?
There will be cloture votes on each of those House messages.
And
the Senator is correct. There will be cloture votes on both of those House messages.
Meanwhile, in the executive calendar, we have the START Treaty. And
that is correct.
There is no amendments that are in order on either DREAM Act or Don't Ask, Don't Tell. No amendments are in order.
There's no place for an amendment on either measure at this time.
My understanding is there's no place for an amendment on either measure at this time.
So here we are, about 6 weeks after an election that repudiated the agenda of the other side. We are jamming, or trying to jam, major issues through the Senate of the United States because they know they can't get it done beginning next January 5th. You can't do it next January 5th, and the American people have spoken, and you are acting in direct repudiation of the message of the American people. That's why they're jamming through this. And my friends, there's a lot of talk about compromise. There's a lot of talk about working together. You think what this bizarro world that the majority leader has been carrying us in of cloture votes on this, votes on various issues that are on the political agenda of the other side, is somehow think that beginning next January 5th we will all love one another in kumbaya? I don't think so. I don't think so. Unfortunately, the majority is using a lame duck session to push an agenda when the fact is lame duck sessions are supposed to be to finish up the work of Congress so that the new Congress can act on the issues of the day. The American people have spoken in what the President of the United States described as a shellacking, and everything we're doing is completely ignoring that message. Maybe it will require another election. So, for example, I filed 2 amendments that I believe that are relevant to this bill, important to this major change. Those won't be in order. I've always and consistently stated that I would listen to and fully consider the advice of our military and our military leadership. On December 3rd, the Committee on Armed Services heard from the chiefs of our 4 military services, General Amos said, based on what I know about the very tough fight in Afghanistan, the almost singular focus of our combat forces as they train up and deploy into theater, the necessary tightly woven cloture of those combat forces that we're asking so much of at this time, and finally, the direct feedback from my survey is that we should not implement repeal at this time. Then he talks about mistakes and inattention or distractions cost Marines lives. Marines come back after serving in combat and they say, look, anything that's going to break or potentially break that focus and cause any kind of distraction may have an effect on cohesion. I don't want to permit that opportunity to happen, and I'll tell you why. If you go up to Bethesda, Marines are up there with no legs, none. We've got Marines at Walter Reed with no limbs. General Casey said, I believe that the implementation of the repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell in the near term will add another level of stress to an already stretched force. 2, be more difficult in our combat arms units, and 3, be more difficult for the Army than the report suggests. General Schwartz basically said the same thing. I've heard from thousands of active duty and retired military personnel. I've heard from them. And they're saying, Senator McCain, it isn't broke, and don't fix it. So all of this talk about how it's a civil rights issue and equality, the fact is the military has the highest recruiting and highest retention at any time in its history. So I understand the other side's argument as to their social, political agenda. But to somehow allege that it has harmed our military is not justified by the facts. I hope everybody recognizes that this debate is not about the broader social issues that are being discussed in our society, but what is in the best interest of our national security and our military during the time of war. Now, I'm aware that this vote will probably pass today in a lame duck session, and there'll be high fives all over the liberal bastions of America, and we'll see the talk shows tomorrow, a bunch of people talking about how great it is. Most of them never have served in the military or maybe even not even known someone in the military. And you know, we'll repeal it. And all over America, there'll be gold stars put up in windows in the rural towns and communities all over America that don't partake in the elite schools that bar military recruiters from campus, that don't partake in the salons of Georgetown and the other liberal bastions here around the country. But there'll be additional sacrifice. I hear that from master sergeants. I hear that from junior officers. I hear that from leaders. So I am confident that with this repeal, that our military, the best in the world, will salute and do the best they can to carry out the orders of the Commander-in-Chief. That's the nature. That's the nature of our military. And I could not be more proud of them in the performance that they have given us in Iraq and Afghanistan, and before that, other conflicts. And they will do what is asked of them, but don't think that it won't be at great cost. I'll never forget being just a few weeks ago at Kandahar, Army Sergeant Major with 5 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. And a forward operating base said, Senator McCain, we live together, we sleep together, we eat together. Unit cohesion is what makes us succeed. So I hope that when we pass this legislation, that we will understand that we are doing great damage, and we could possibly and probably, as the Commandant of the Marine Corps said, and I've been told by literally thousands of members of the military, harm the battle effectiveness, which is so vital to the support, to the survival of our young men and women in the military. Mr. President, I yield the balance of my time.